Imagine for a moment that you are alone, in complete silence. There is no voices, there are none noises, only the echo of your thoughts. In front of you, a door ajar. On the other side, there is no fire, neither darkness, but a strange light, almost spiritual, that does not comfort, that burns without destroying. This is not the hell, nor is it the heaven. It is the place where souls cry in silence, where every second is an eternity and every memory is a flame. That place is the Purgatory. Have you ever thought about what happens next of the last beat of your heart? Where to? Your soul goes when there's no more time. If you think so, in God, if you feel your faith is real, stay until the end of this video. Don't close this window. What you're about to hear can change your way of seeing life and death. Because today we are going to unearth the stories that many have preferred to forget. Revelations that are not in Sunday sermons, neither in modern catechisms. Today you'll discover what the saints saw in Purgatory and why nobody wants to remember it. And if you think that the faith still has power, if you feel that your soul belongs to something bigger than this world, comment on this phrase now, same here below. I think in the God's mercy and I pray for the forgotten souls. Writes that is truly have faith. No, do it for the algorithm. Do it for them, for the souls that don't have who they remember. And if it's true you believe in God, leave your like now same. Not because but because this message needs reach others, to thousands who have forgotten that the soul does not die with the body. Let's go in together, it invisible, and we won't come out the same. For centuries, the Church has held a truth as mysterious as it is forgotten. The Purgatory is not a punishment, but a preparation. It is a supreme act of divine love that, paradoxically, manifests itself through the suffering of the soul. But what is it really, purgatory? Official teaching tells us that the purgatory is a state of purification for those souls who die in the grace of God, but are not yet completely cleansed of their imperfections. It is not a second chance, nor is it an eternal condemnation. It is a sacred interval, a fire not material but spiritual, where the soul is purged of everything that still thee away from the fullness of God. Unlike the sky, which is the eternal vision of divine glory, and of hell, which is the absolute separation from God, the purgatory is a process of hope. The souls there, they suffer, yes, but with the absolute certainty that a day will be embraced by the eternal light. This doctrine was not invented by the Middle Ages, nor is it a fable from the Catechism. It is deeply rooted in the Scriptures. In the second book of the Maccabees, 1246, it is stated that it is a holy and pious idea to pray for the dead so that they may be freed from their sins. And in the New Testament, St. Paul alludes to a fire that purifies, although the soul is saved, as one who goes through the fire. 1 Cor 3:15. The Council of Trent confirmed this teaching with authority, declaring that there is a purgatory and that the souls there can be helped by the faithful in the land, especially through of the sacrifice of the Mass. But there is something that is not said with frequency, the purgatory. It is also a cry for mercy, because even after the death, God still loves the soul, giving it one last chance to be worthy of his presence, a final flame that does not destroy, but purifies. Now that you know what it teaches the Church, the question is, are you willing to know what the saints really saw when his eyes spiritual crossed the threshold of the purgatory? Saint Catherine of Genoa did not have visions of fire and punishment like other saints. What she experienced was much deeper and more terrifying. His vision of the purgatory did not come through dreams, neither apparitions. It was born from a mystical, almost intimate understanding of the human soul in the face of the absolute love of God. For Catalina, the purgatory was not a physical place. It was a state of the soul, a spiritual reality so intense that it could not be explained with human words. She described as a desire burning, a longing unbearable to be with God. and at the same time, a heartbreaking impossibility of reaching it because it is still stained. Imagine loving someone with so much strength, with all your being, and knowing that you can't hug him because you're covered in mud. You feel the presence, you see the light, but there's something inside you holding you back. It's not God who's keeping you away, it's you. Same. That's the essence of the Purgatory, according to St. Catherine. She wrote, "The soul, knowing divine purity, sees itself same as she is, and would prefer 1,000 hells before presenting herself before God with the slightest stain. It is not a punishment imposed from outside. It is an inner need for purification that becomes in fire, not physical, but of love. And that love is so powerful that, although it hurts more than any imaginable torment, the soul endures it, accepts with joy, because he knows that every tear, every second in that calls invisible, brings it closer to the eternal union with his Creator. Catalina teaches us that the Purgatory is not a cell gloomy, but a glorious process. It is the silent workshop of the soul, whether the Holy Spirit polishes even the last imperfection. It is the echo of the darling resonating in the deepest part of being, but it is also a cry that needs answer. Because although the souls there cannot help themselves ourselves, we can lighten his path. We can be hands of comfort in the middle of that divine fire. And can you feel the urgency of those hearts burning? Because the story doesn't end here. There are those who they heard their cries with clarity, and they decided act. Saint Faustina Kowalska, the Secretary of Divine Mercy, not only received visions of the sky and of the Christ himself, he also descended with the trembling soul to the silent abysses of the Purgatory. What he saw marked forever. In his diary, Faustina wrote with disconcerting clarity, "I was led by an angel to Purgatory. It is a place of gloomy darkness, full of spiritual fire and pain of the longing. Souls suffer intensely, but they are at peace. What most impacted was not his suffering in yes, but the screams, the desperate whispers of souls crying out for help. They weren't asking to be released. They weren't asking for personal favors. They were pleading for one thing: remember us in your prayers." That deep cry transformed. From then on, he offered every pain, every little humiliation, and every prayer for those forgotten souls, because he understood something that many Christians have forgotten. Our prayers, they have weight, they have power, they have reach beyond from the veil of the death. Faustina too witnessed the invisible link between the living and the dead. Every time he offered a prayer, a mortification, or a communion for the souls of the Purgatory, I felt a liberation. As if a chain had broken, as if a light had crossed the shadow. She said, "God is not fair in the human way. His justice is mercy, and so it allows the soul to be purified, not destroyed." In a world that forgets its dead, Faustina became in voice, in consolation, in bridge. His life was a living plea for those who were not remember. Today, you and I can do it same. We can answer those cries. We can be that voice in the land that says, "You are not alone." And you, what will you do? Or will you let the silence continue to bury the souls that wait, because still there is more? Yet there are saints who left us teachings about the hidden power that you and we have to change eternal destinies. Saint Alphonsus Maria de Liguori did not speak of the Purgatory with fear, but with urgency. For him, it was a present reality, a living responsibility that weighed on the shoulders of every Christian. His teaching was clear. The Holy Mass is the golden key that opens the doors of the Purgatory. As a theologian, doctor of the Church and master of souls, Alfonso insisted in something that many they have forgotten. Nothing, absolutely nothing, has more power to relieve the souls of the Purgatory than the Holy Mass offered with intention. He said, "One Mass, celebrated while one is alive, has more value than many offered by the soul after the death." but also taught that the post-mortem masses are not in vain. They are balm, they are release, they are hope for souls who can no longer deserve, but who still they can receive. Saint Alphonsus collected numerous testimonies of conversions and liberations brought about by the Eucharist. It counted the story of a woman who every day offered a mass for a soul of the purgatory. Years later, in his deathbed, he saw that same soul coming for her, not as a shadow, but as a light to accompany her. According to Alfonso, every Mass celebrated with faith penetrates the purgatory as a ray of glory. The consecrated host becomes in the sun that dissolves chains invisible. Because in the Eucharist is the living Christ, and where Christ is, there is no darkness that can withstand. And the most striking thing, you don't need to be a priest to offer this treasure. Each faithful can request that a Mass be celebrated for a specific soul. You can give a name, an intention, a tear, and that it can be the difference between centuries of waiting and an eternity of light. St. Alphonsus leaves us this mission, not to accumulate merits only for ourselves, but to share them with those who cannot talk, with those who wait, with those who, in their burning silence, they cry out to heaven for someone like you. And if you think this is powerful, wait until you find out what St. Gertrude and Padre Pio experienced, because they didn't just pray, they saw it invisible. St. Gertrude Magna had a unique relationship with the souls of the purgatory. In his revelations, the darling you entrusted a prayer so powerful that many that they call the rescue of 1,000 souls. It wasn't magic or exaggeration. It was pure divine mercy, manifested through a woman who offered every breath for the forgotten. In one of her visions, Gertrudis, he saw Jesus surrounded by supplicating souls, and he said, every time you recite this prayer with his sincere heart, 1,000 souls are freed from the purgatory. The prayer, simple but ardent, spread throughout Europe like a living flame of hope. She didn't see shadows. She saw faces. I didn't hear screams, but soft wails like echoes, like memories that still they longed for redemption. And every time he prayed, those echoes became in song. But centuries later, a humble Italian friar would experience something even more direct. Padre Pio of Pietrelcina not only believed in a purgatory, he had lived. Numerous witnesses narrate how souls in torment are appeared during the night. Some they asked prayers, others they just stayed there in silence waiting for the light that they knew he could offer. One day, one young seminarian, he asked, "Father, are you really speaks with dead?" And he replied with serenity, "They are not dead, they just wait, and they need someone to remember them." Padre Pio offered every Mass with supernatural intensity. He said that every drop of Christ's blood shed in the altar had the power to tear from the purgatory to the most suffering souls. And it did, in secret, without seeking glory, because he understood that his mission was not just to save the living, but to free souls. The combination of Gertrude and Pius leaves us with a lesson unavoidable. You and me, we can also be channels of liberation. You don't need mystical gifts. Only faith, only love. Because the fight is not over, oblivion continues to bury thousands of souls, and the darkest part remains to be revealed. What no one has ever known wants to remember. There is a truth that has become uncomfortable, one that many, they prefer not to look, not because it isn't real, but because it hurts too much. Purgatory exists, but we have forgotten. We live in a time in which the death it has been decorated, hidden behind flowers, elegant urns, and empty phrases like, "rested in peace." But do they really rest? Who cares for their souls afterward? Of the burial, the saints warned us. The souls of the purgatory, they suffer loneliness indescribable. They can't speak, they can't move, just wait, and trust that someone, someday, remember to pray for them. But in this fast-paced, promise-filled time, empty and superficial spirituality, who remember, there is no greater sadness for a soul than to be forgotten. Saint Faustina once said that majority of souls who are in purgatory, they are there because no one prays for them. They no longer have family. Already nobody light a candle. Now nobody mentions his name in the Mass. They are alone, and they will be there for years, for centuries. Do you realize of the pain of that silence? Modernity has deleted the purgatory of the imaginary Christian. It is spoken of the sky, be warned of the hell. But the purgatory is uncomfortable because it demands responsibility, because it looks at you eyes and says to you, you can change this. And the inevitable question arises, how many souls are waiting for you? How many are caught in that flame of love, waiting only for a prayer, a mass, a rosary, something that return the hope? It's not about fear, it's about justice, it's about mercy. It's about not letting our dead in spiritual abandonment, because forgetting kills more than death, and you can avoid it. We're not done yet. We just need to understand. What is your role, your responsibility? Because it's not enough to know, you have to act. Knowing that the purgatory exists and the souls there suffer, it no longer allows us the indifference. It's not just about compassion, it's a sacred duty. Because if you and I can alleviate that pain, even if only for a moment, and not we do, what faith class we profess. We the living have a power we often ignore. We can intercede, we can offer, we can act, in name of those who cannot defend yourself. And that is a divine privilege. The Church always had taught that there is three main ways to help the souls of the purgatory: the Holy Mass, the Holy Rosary, and the sacrifices offered with love. The Mass is the most powerful act you can offer. Asking for a Mass to be celebrated for a specific soul not only shortens his time of purification, may mean your release immediate. It is a shower of grace upon a desert burning. The Rosary is like a chain of mystical roses. Each Hail Mary said with devotion is a relief, a breeze, a drop of freshness for thirsty souls. Mary, the Mother of the Mercy, never abandons those who pray for her children sufferers. And then are the sacrifices personal. Fasts, mortifications, renunciations made secretly, without anyone it know, but offered with heart for the deceased. Those small everyday crosses, when they are offered with faith, they have an eternal value. St. Alphonsus said, "The greatest an act of charity is not giving bread to the hungry, but freeing a soul from purgatory." And St. John Vianney, he added, "If we knew how great is the power of a Mass for a soul, we would not leave pass a single day without offer it." Today, I invite you to take this responsibility as a life mission, to turn your prayer daily in a bridge toward the eternity. Never forget those who wait in silence, because a day you will need that mercy. And perhaps a person like you who hears this message will be the one who remembers you. But before closing this story, let me tell you that of someone who dedicated his entire life to this cause. In a little village hidden between mountains lived a man simple called Raphael. He was neither a priest nor a theologian. He did not write books, neither was recognized by multitudes. But all the days, to the same time I saw him enter the old church of the people, light a candle and pray the rosary in complete silence. The neighbors, they thought that it did it out of habit. Some, they said it was because of his deceased wife. But what few they knew, it was that Raphael did not pray for him, nor for his family. He prayed for the most forgotten souls of the purgatory, those who don't have name, the ones that no one remember. For more than 30 years, he offered every Mass he heard, every sacrifice of his daily life, the cold, the disease, the loneliness, for those souls. He never asked for anything in return. He never spoke of it. One afternoon, when already was very old man, fell asleep in his church pew, and he didn't wake up. But what happened after shook the whole world town. The priest who celebrated his funeral said that night had a dream. In he saw Raphael surrounded by thousands of lights. They weren't candles, they were souls. souls that surrounded it. They looked with gratitude, and they were wearing in procession toward the light. That story became in local legend, but beyond from the myth, there is a truth that affects us all. There is no faith small when it is put at the service of the eternity. Today you can be like Raphael. We have traveled together the testimonies of saints, forgotten visions, the cries of the Purgatory, and now you know it's not about fear, but about love, about justice, about fidelity. Don't ignore this call. Be a memory for those the world has forgotten. Pray, offer, remember. And if this message touched your soul, share this video with someone who also need to remember. Leave your like as an act of faith. And he comments below, "No, I will forget." Do it if you believe that souls deserve more than silence. And tell me, is there any mystery that you would like to see revealed in an upcoming video? Because there are truths that's still waiting to be counted.